because nerves. So we've got to have alcohol around at all times. Okay, guys, how are you doing? Oh, how are you doing? It doesn't sound like you're doing good. How are you doing? Good. Okay. So today we're going to have a little conversation about body positivity. And I think that's something that everybody is affected by and should speak about. And I have two very, nice people to have this conversation with. Can you put your hands together for Famia? Come on. And we also have delectable Magnus with us as well, joining our conversation. Put your hands together for them. Okay. Can one of you join me on this side? That would be great. Sorry, Max, could you... Okay, actually, you can have that microphone. How are you guys doing? Good.
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah? All good? Okay, great, guys. So, welcome to this segment. You already know what we're going to be talking about, and I hope that you're prepared to sort of like spill all the juicy things and all the truths and all the tea that you have on the topic, because I know I will. Okay, so actually, before we start, I want us to play a little game, okay? And the audience is going to have to participate. I'm not sure you were expecting this, but you're going to have to participate if you like it or not. So, can everybody please get up? Everybody, stand up. Go on. My panelist also. Sorry. Everybody get up, please. I don't want to see anybody sitting except for me, because I'm the queen. Okay, so we're going to play a little game of Have You Ever. Now, technically, this game is a drinking game, and you put out some scenarios, and the person has to drink if they've done that particular thing, or if they've experienced that particular thing. Now, with us, I'm going to put out a scenario, and if you've experienced this, or done this, or thought this, please sit down, okay? And then we'll see who is left at the end. Okay, so we'll start now. Sit down if you've ever worn braces, wear braces, or considered any non-essential dental procedure like teeth whitening. Okay? Sit down if you own a waist trainer. Sit down if you've ever checked out a plastic surgeon on IG or considered getting a plastic procedure of any kind. Wow, okay. Okay, sit down if you shave, wax, laser any part of your body except your pubes and armpits. Sit down if you wear glasses. There you go. Sit down if you've tried or considered weight loss teas and pills. Sit down if you wear makeup. No, once you sit down, you have to stay sat down. Oh. Right. Sit down if you keep your hair a certain way specifically for work. Sit down if, as an adult, or if at any point of your stage, you've had an adult say, "Hey, you've grown fat too," or "Hey, why are you so skinny?" I knew I was going to get everybody. I knew it. I was just, that last one was going to get everybody. Basically, the point of this game is to show you that I'm affected by body politics, okay? Things like, kind of checking out plastic surgeons. It might seem like, I'm just going to check them out or whatever. But the reason why we do these things can be influenced by, the media we see or the way we've been raised. And so, as we can see, each and every one of us has been affected by that, okay? So now, in this next segment, we're going to go right into it with our questions and our discussion. So, first of all, I want to ask you guys how growing up, actually, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, just quick one sentence. And then tell me, growing up, how you defined attraction. I'll go first. So my name is Okonore. I am a writer, and I'm an educator, but in my spare time, I like to be a nuisance on Twitter. I also just started a herbal tea line where I also make products for sexual enhancement and those sort of things. And so yeah, that's pretty much me. Growing up, because in Chi, which is my mother's language, attractive, I kind of relate attractive to the word akono. And akono is related to food. So in that sense, I sort of thought of it of, being akono, when you're akona, you have to be pleasant to the eye, you have to smell good, and of course you have to taste good. You get. Um, so guys, how do you tell us about yourself and how you thought of attraction growing up? Famia, do you want to go first?
Okay. Hi, I'm Fami Ankansa. I'm a writer. I work in communications. I'm a contributor to the adventures from the bedrooms of Internet Women blog. And I basically just like talking about sex. I mean, that's basically it. Whoop, whoop.
Okay. So attraction. How did you think about attraction or attractiveness growing up?
So growing up, for me, attractiveness was defined by everybody thinking you were attractive.
Okay.
For some reason, just from the family I grew up in, I have 4 brothers. I'm the only girl. I come from a family of very skinny people. As you can see, I am not skinny.
Right.
And so I sort of grew up with this sense that if you are attractive, if one person liked you or 2 people liked you, that wasn't enough. Like, you had to be the kind of person that everybody thought you were fine.
Right.
And for me, that was a fairly limited way of thinking. But it wasn't until I grew up that I realized that, because all the people that I thought were attractive seemed to be attractive to everyone. It didn't occur to me that I hadn't taken a poll, and for all I knew, some people thought they were whack. As far as I was concerned, because I thought they were attractive and I saw the reception they got from other people, I assumed that they were universally attractive.
Right. Okay. Magnus, your turn. Tell us about yourself and how you think about attractiveness and attraction.
So my name is Magnus. I work with a trans-specific organization.
Okay.
And then I'm a sex talker, but I don't like to talk about my personal sex life.
That doesn't matter. All sex, whether your own or other people's, is
Yeah.
absolutely fine.
And everything tastes better except water to me. So I'm
Okay.
kind of weird sometimes.
Okay.
And growing up, my siblings made me know that you need to look feminine. Like, if
Okay.
you're a lady, you should be feminine, then you are attractive.
Right.
So if, like, I grew up dressed like this, my dad used to buy me boxers and all
Right.
of that. So I wasn't attractive to my siblings.
Okay.
And then I realized that even in school, I don't count myself as the attractive people or the sexy ones and all. So that was what I had in my mind all along. But I wasn't bothered, because there was no way I will find myself doing makeup and all of that.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So the next question I have is that, you know, we often, when we talk about body positivity and all those kind of things, we automatically kind of like jump to the media and how they portray bodies and those kind of things. And I feel like recently there has been a certain amount of inclusion. And I put inclusion in quotes because how much of that do you think is very superficial, and how much of that do you think, you know, involves having to give concessions? So I'll give myself as an example. As a fat dark-skinned woman, I feel like, okay, yeah, I do see more people in media that, well, I say more, probably 2. There's Lizzo, and there is an English YouTuber, Chanel Boateng, and those are the only 2 people who I can sort of relate to and feel like, okay, those bodies look like mine. But then also, on the other hand, other, you know, dark-skinned, bigger women, it's either, you know, you have to have the huge butts. My buttock is flat. Okay, so I cannot relate. Or if you're dark-skinned and you're slim, your skin has to be shiny. You have to be bathed in, you know, in body oil in your photo shoot. Or you still have to kind of like have the long silky hair, bone straight, you know? What do you guys think? How do you guys think that media has changed? And how much concessions do you think that we, untypical bodies, how many concessions do you think that untypical bodies still have to make in order to fit in? Magnus, do you want to start?
Personally, I don't think a lot has changed, because still we see in the media, and then you have, let's say, if it's a program, the hosts are normally fair and then very skinny or I don't know, sexy to them, and so if you have other programs that have dark skin and then fat people being hosts, sometimes you get comments like, oh, if they had used someone that is a bit slimmer or someone that is fair, it would have drawn attention. A typical example is we started a YouTube channel, and then the host, and our first shoot in Accra, someone came up to me and said, see, this thing, like if you get some skinny starred way, you get swag, like the thing go blow. And I'm like, are you listening to what I'm going to say, or you are looking at the body? See, I love my tummy. So if that's the problem, then don't watch. So it's, I feel people don't really pay attention to what you have to say, but what is on the screen. And it is something that we need to debunk that. So
not much has changed to you.
Not pretty much.
Okay, Femia.
I agree to a large extent. I think, like you said, there's been expansion, right? And with every expansion, people get up and they laud it and they say, oh, I finally feel included. And then when you look at the expansion, you realize that it's still very narrow. And even in the expansion, they find ways to narrow people out. They find ways to exclude people. So a typical example is when curvaceous girls got popular. And, you know, black women had that body type for eons, but it wasn't until Kim Kardashian came that everybody was like, oh, wow, botos, kevs, yay, you know. And some people were like, oh, it's good. Voluptuous women are being embraced. Then you realize that you can only be voluptuous if your stomach is washboard flat and your waist is like this. If you aren't, then all of a sudden, it's not the right kind of voluptuous. So you can be big like Lizzo, but you have to have a certain amount of sexiness, a certain amount of swag. You have to be confident in your body. You have to twerk.
Because Lizzo gets a lot of slack as well. Like, Lizzo puts pictures up and it's basically disgusting. Why would you put this up? But, you know, skinny people put their booty on Instagram all the time. If I went to do it, it would be a whole different thing altogether.
I think people just feel like the more something is, the more they can say. So if your ass is like extra big, then they have extra yawa, you know, to tell you. And there's always something, like you were saying, if you're a big girl doing all these curvy swimsuits, hauls or whatever, then your skin has to be flawless. If you're dark skinned, then you have to be like ebony glowing, you know, Lauryn Hill, Nicki Thoughts, you know, stunning looking. And it's like, whatever is accepted, there's still always a caveat. There's still always some reason why you have to be spectacular. And for me, I feel like I will feel as if there's true inclusion when you can be average and be fine. You know, and until we get there, I feel like it's basically a sham.
Do you guys think that, because I'm going off something that Magnus said, that about, you know, people saying that if you were to cast, you know, certain looks as presenters, it would make things blow more. Do you think that body types actually affect the kind of jobs that you can get in this Accra here? Because obviously my answer is yes. Because I feel like one of my, I guess, dreams when I moved to Ghana a few years ago was I did want to go into media, because that's something that I'm super interested in. And I think I very quickly realized, and actually somebody in media specifically told me that, you know, oh, you know, why don't you like wear more makeup? Like, why don't you wear a wig and, you know, post things on Instagram and things? And I was like, Auntie, that's not why I'm here. You know, I want to read the news. What's this? Like, I want to talk about feminist things and, you know, things that are important to me. What has and at the time I had baby locks. So I'm like, okay, I might be in my ugly lock phase, but can you just, you know, try for me small? So do you think that that's an actual thing still in Accra and maybe even in the West for black people, where we are judged on our bodies for jobs which have nothing to do most of the time with our bodies? Femia, do you want to go?
Absolutely. Just yesterday, somebody sent me an advert, and it was somebody looking for fair receptionists.
Wow. And it's wild that in Ghana you can do that, because I feel like in England at least it's illegal, so you can't. But here it's like plain.
They were searching for fair, pretty receptionists for large company. And I was like, wow. Like, at least wait for the dark skinned ones to come, then you sack them at the
like, do it incognito.
Like, but that's very typical. If you look at the people in media they tend to be lighter, they tend to be prettier, and sadly it's a product of colonization, it's a product of, you know, racial brainwashing. But everywhere you go where there are black people or brown people, you will notice that the people on their billboards are fairer than the people in the country.
Right.
You know, my mother is convinced all Indians, my mother likes those Indian soap operas,
Yes,
and
yes.
she's convinced like all Indians are like fair and things. I was like, look, there are Indians that are blacker than me. You just don't
Exactly.
see them on
I
your
think that's
show.
that's what I thought growing up as well. If I hadn't like met Indians in real life in England, I wouldn't have realized, or even Sri Lankans. I met a lot of Sri Lankans that were dark skinned, and I was like, you're from Asia? Like, you're not mixed? Like, your daddy ain't black? Are you sure? So, yeah, it's crazy that we're sort of brainwashed in how much media and just our society in general molds our mind in how we see bodies. Magnus, do you want to say anything else in terms of, you know, employment and
Yeah, so
bodies?
I think if it depends on the kind of work that they want to employ a fat person. Let's say if it is this detox thingy, then they will say we are looking for someone that is of this weight, so
Right,
that
right,
you
so
can
that you can show
advertise
that.
and all of that.
Eh.
And then if it is, let's say, fashion design, those catwalks and all, then I don't fit.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So it's more like that, and then it is very difficult to even find body sizes in workplaces. Like you see that we have fat, we have those that are albino and all of that.
Right.
It's more like a lot of employers have. You come and then you have all the CVs and all of that, but your teeth should look a certain way.
Right.
Your nose should
Right.
look a certain way,
as
and then
well.
I ask myself, are you after my intelligence or how?
Or after my body.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of sort of workplace romance that fits into all of that as well. Because
Yeah.
I have experienced that, like, in corporate, I don't know why people can't mind their business. It's not at work that you're going to find love. I beg you. I am not the love of your life. I came here to get a paycheck. Don't bother me.
Even
But-
sometimes it's not even about the how fat the person is. Let's say a trans man or a stud is looking for a work to be a receptionist. Then you are forced to wear mini skirt. If
Yeah.
you can't wear the skirt,
Yeah.
then you don't fit.
Yeah.
And imagine asking me to wear skirt. You want
Right.
to collapse. it's just
Right.
crazy.
Right. I get that. Okay. So then, with all of that, I think something that I've been sort of like tackling over the past couple of months or going into years is some of the contradictions of perhaps being black, being African, and living in Africa, and kind of like dealing with Western beauty standards as well. Because something that I did find is that, to an extent, we still value things that are very, I want to say, pre-colonially beautiful. Okay, so one thing that freaks me is Ghanaian women that have the lines on their neck. If I see a woman with lines on their neck, then I want to die. Like, just take me, ravish me. Yeah, they just ravish me. But, you know, and I know, like, other people who find that very attractive as well. And, you know, having studied some African studies, I realize if you look at some West African masks, it's something that they actually depict. So it's something that they're valued in terms of beauty, which we have kept. Other things like, you know, voluptuousness as well, and, you know, dark skin. And so how do you guys think we should or can navigate the conflict of constantly seeing a certain type of body on TV, in the magazines, and all that kind of stuff, but then also you're having perhaps romantic partners or sexual partners, you know, coming towards you and approaching you because, oh, you like, I like your body, yeah, your breast is what kills me, crowd. And for me, for a long time, that confused me because I was like, like, what do you mean? I'm not supposed to be attractive. Why are you coming to me, or why are you approaching me when, generally speaking, this isn't what you're supposed to be attracted to? How do you guys navigate that? Famia, do you want to go?
Sure. I think all post-colonial societies are a mass of contradictions, right? Because we sort of have what we had before the white man came, and then we sort of had what the white man imposed on us, and there's always this sort of tension between the two. So I remember when I was in secondary school, there was this girl who had the rings on her neck, and everybody made fun of her. And it was this thing, everybody would like point at her, hey, that's the girl who I was telling you about her.
Right.
And then somebody told me that, like, in the ancient Ashanti tradition, that's considered a mark of beauty.
Yeah.
And that there are a lot of people who, grow up in a rural area or grow up in the village who see that as a very desirable trait. And I thought it was pretty, but I just couldn't say anything because I was shy because everybody was talking. So I was like, let me just keep quiet. But what I mean is that what we see on TV or what the media tells us is fine or what Beyonce looks like is sort of what we've been conditioned to think is beautiful. And that is what we outwardly express as our desire. But most women in Ghana don't look like that.
Right.
And those women are getting fucked 24/7. So obviously, somebody thinks they're hot.
Right.
Right? So it's just about what we actually desire versus what we articulate. And a lot of the time, I think a lot of people feel like if you articulate something that not everybody thinks is beautiful, you're going to be mocked. I remember an ex-boyfriend of mine was in an office. He worked in tech, and somebody brought some clip of some girl having sex, and it was like basically like a clip from a porno. And he was telling me later that everybody in the office was looking at it and was like, "Oh, this girl, she's not fine, cry. Oh, this girl, she's not fine, cry," because I think she had a little bit of a belly. And he was like, "Charlie, media, she define me, mom, but I don't talk some because."
Right.
Because he just didn't want to have to go to the trouble of defending. Because once you say it, then everybody's like, but why? Then you have to defend. Like you don't have taste. Exactly. And he wasn't feeling like that day. He didn't feel like I was the one who was going to defend that chick.
Do you think that it's part of our responsibility, as in in terms like collectively as society, cough cough men, is it our responsibility to sort of take that stand and be like, Charlie, no, the girl is fine, like, and not be like, oh no, I couldn't be bothered to defend? Because I know people where that kind of attitude rolls into other things as well, where in terms of like rape culture and those sort of things, you hear people talking about it and you're like, I know it's wrong, I wouldn't do some, but I also don't want to sort of like get into a verbal argument. Do you think it's our responsibility to stand up and speak up against those things?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. But it takes courage. And nobody wants to be the one on the limb, right? So if it's a collective, then you have power. So if everybody who is thinking the girl is fine is brave enough to say it, then all of a sudden you're changing the tide of opinion. But if it's one lone nigga in the corner, everybody's going to pounce on him and he doesn't have that courage. And I think that's just something in general life that we all have to develop. We all have to have a certain amount of courage to say that, okay, this is non-traditional beauty, but it's beautiful to me. And the more people do that, the more the non-traditional beauty turns into traditional beauty.
Magnus, do you have anything to say in terms of,
So the surprising thing is men don't like fat women, but a lot of fat women are giving birth. So who is stopping these women? Like, I don't get it.
Men will fold the belly and get to the pussy, but guys, don't be deceived.
Yeah. So sometimes I feel women allow themselves to be bullied by men. Like when your dick is up, you find me attractive, and then when you are not in the mood, you come and you go like, you've been eating, why like what say you like. But when you are in the mood, you find me attractive to chop me. Like, we need to stand up against that, because I don't need to look a certain way for you to find me attractive. If you don't find me attractive, I feel I'm okay. So if we can, but maybe sometimes they need a dick. So.
And even besides that, I was going to say, don't you think that, a lot of the time we relate to desire and attractiveness in terms of our needs as well? Because the fact of the matter is that a lot of, especially married women in this Ghana, rely on their partners. And so part of your job, so to say, as a wife, is to be desirable, is to be attractive. And so sometimes I don't blame them for, being influenced by that, because if I'm depending on my husband and I've put on weight and he tells me that, if you don't lose, 10K by next month, I'm not giving you job money, boy, I'm hitting the treadmill. Like, I feel like I'm a hard girl. But if it's down to, money for me to eat, I feel like even I might be influenced, kind of like feed into that. So I think that's something that we also need to think about. So my next question would be, where is the boundary between attraction and fetishization. So again, I'm doing a lot of, fat and dark skin examples because that's what I can relate to personally. I think there's a lot of times where guys are attracted to people that look like me, but it is a little bit of a fetish. And I think the best example I can give is when it comes to white men. Because it's like that's one, yeah, it's like they see me because I'm extra dark. I'm borderline blue black. So that one, they really like it. Like, it really freaks them. But not on the level where you actually value me as a person. You actually value my culture. You actually value where I come from or anything like that. You literally just see me as a human chocolate bar that you want to glaze with your cum. That's how you see me. And I think that I don't see any value in that. And so I just want to ask you guys, maybe if you had any experiences with fetishization, or how you think we should navigate things like that. Magnus, you can go first.
So I had this ex that says, when it comes to your body, when you're in traditional outfit, there it's dope.
Right.
Apart from that, I think you should hit the gym.
Right.
So you see that this person is confused.
Right.
If I want to hit the gym, I should hit the gym because I want to.
Yeah.
Don't complain when I'm
Right.
eating, then you go like, upon all this time you are still eating. Are you not eating?
Because I'm hungry. What the fuck?
You see, so sometimes people are attracted to people because of one thing, and then they are
Right.
not attracted to them because
everything
of
else,
the
but
other.
still get for them
Exactly.
anyways. Yeah, I get
And-
that. Yeah.
It's really weird, but then we can't. I think it's about time we speak against it. If we get one person, like you said, the lone guy at the corner hates to talk because he thinks they will crucify him. But till when? It's about time. If one person talks, maybe the other 9 in the crowd might also have a change of mind, or
Yeah.
might also have it at the back of their mind that, oh, me too, they feel fat, or dark-skinned women. Oh, so if
Right.
Kofi says, let me also join, or if Amma says, but it's should I say, it bores me if I see a lady joining guys to
Right.
shame other
Yes,
ladies, like
because
just
let's not get it twisted. Like, it's not just men that do this.
Yes.
Unfortunately, some of the misogyny is internalized by
yeah.
women as
Even
well, and all
if you even look at the
genders.
queer community, and then you see you have skinny or sexy, let me put it in. Gay men, and then we go like, this fat guy there, I wonder if they get market, like
Right.
with the
Right.
you see,
Right.
and then it means that's particular comment that you just made, you've set your boundaries. You think that you need to look a certain way to be gay, or I've had someone that's have come up to me and said, I don't think you are trans because you are fat, and I'm like, who defines who
Make it make sense.
a trans person
Make
is?
it make sense.
So
Yeah.
so the fact that you are trans, you should have a 6-pack, and then you should
Right.
look more what do you call it,
Like your stereotype of a stud. Like, yeah.
and we need to start having those
Those
conversations.
Yeah. Famia, any fetishization, horror stories?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Tell us, we want to know.
I'm a walking white boy wet dream.
Oh, yes.
I went
the locks and everything. Yes,
I went
see
to
it.
university outside, and it was a very, very interesting experience. And I think the thing with fetishization for me is that it's dehumanizing,
Yes.
right? Because they're not seeing the full spectrum of you. They have a prototype in their mind, and that's what they want. And
Right.
you are, to some degree, interchangeable with the next curvy, dark-skinned girl. And for me, that's kind of where I draw the line, because I think that there's a difference between dating somebody of another race and fetishizing somebody of another race. And for me, the difference is, are you only dating people that look like that?
Okay.
Is
Yeah.
that sort of a thing for you? In that case, then you need to examine yourself and figure out what went wrong in the course of your life,
Right.
and in the course of your psychology,
Yeah.
right? But if it's something about the person that draws you, then that's different. And for me, I've had both experiences. I've had white guys who obviously liked me because they thought my pussy was the gateway to Africa.
Ooh.
I've had African American guys who liked me for
No way of no
precisely
return,
that
not be
reason.
small.
You know, it's like return to the motherland.
Right.
You know, but I've had people who like me because of me. And I think it's very, very important to draw that distinction. But it's even more important for those people to do some internal work and figure out why they like you.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's something that I've learned. Every time I'm attracted to someone, I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from. And if I can guarantee that it's coming from a good place, it's because you're interesting, it's because I like you, it's because I like something about your smile, then that's different.
Yeah.
But every time I find myself being attracted to someone because of some programming, I always try to check myself.
Right.
And I think that's something that everybody should try to do.
Okay, great. Also, guys, at this point, let's welcome our third panelist, Efia. Hello. Efia, say hey. Let the people hear you. Is your mic working?
Yes. Hi.
Okay, Efia. So obviously, you know we're talking about body positivity, and the
Yes.
question that I just asked is, where is the boundary between fetishization and genuinely being attracted to alternative body types, so to say? Do you have any experiences where you felt like somebody was just, fetishizing you, or how would you say we should navigate fetishization of bodies?
Okay, so first of all, I'm a plus size model, so that even increases the chances of people fetishizing my body.
Right.
I think where we should draw the line is when someone makes it look like they really like you, but they don't.
Right.
They pass certain comments which are obviously
Right.
not right.
Right.
For instance, when I post a picture on social media in, say, a lingerie, the comments I get are really, really not welcoming.
Right. Right. Right.
Especially for men. But I feel they are welcoming from women because they are the people I stand for.
Okay.
So, yeah.
There's that. Okay. Yeah, I get that. Men and cats on social media are really weird because I feel the same way. There's been times where I've like posted a picture, like maybe if I'm working out and I post a picture like a sports bra and leggings, and that one is like I'm attracting the misogyny. Like it's the bat signal for yes, come and talk and kwasiasem in my comment section.
I always have to tell people to stop sexualizing my yoga videos because I'm always doing
Right.
them in
Yes.
bodysuit.
Yeah.
So they always think it is right to pass certain comments,
Right.
which is really bad.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so my next question is kind of like veering off a little bit to talk about homophobia and transphobia and how that affects body politics and how we see bodies. In a sense that how do we make people fit into our preconceived ideas of what is masculine, what is feminine, how should a man look, how should a woman look? And I think Magnus sort of like touched on that a little bit before in terms of, it's almost as if you are going to be trans, then you have to look like manly. And then also even for, cis-het women, things like, I always say this, I'm shaped like a mini fridge, okay?
Many fridges have delicious snacks in them.
They do, and so do I. Okay, but I always say this because for me, even though like I have breasts, but my curves aren't as defined. Okay, and so I feel like sometimes growing up, I've had the idea in my head that if I'm walking with a guy, and perhaps he doesn't, he isn't physically more masculine than I am, people might perceive the couple to be too masculine. Does that make sense? So it will sort of be like, why is this guy even with this girl? Like she looks like a man, like she's shaped like a man, sort of a thing. And so I just want to hear you guys' opinions on this and whether you've experienced it, seen comments on this at all. I'll say Magnus, you go first as a trans person.
I don't even know where to start, but I think it all boils down to learning and then unlearning some stuffs. And in the past, people thought that if you identify as a trans person, then you should be on hormones or have undergone surgery or something. So many a times people pass those comments because they are not informed on trans issues. But where you have someone that passes a comment and you correct them, and then they repeat it and
Right, and
repeat
argue
it,
with you.
then you
Yeah.
feel that they don't want
Yeah.
to learn.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
either you give it to them or you just leave them.
There's no either. Give it to them.
So-
Okay. Violence every day.
Like having someone, you ask someone, call me Mr. Venance, and then you
Uh-huh.
want to tell me that, but you have boobs, and then to me, these are my testicles. Respect it.
That's
So
right.
why
That's
is it so
all. Yes.
difficult for
Yes.
you to,
Yes.
then I should keep repeating myself over and over again.
Right.
So my partner used to call me Peggy a lot, and then I keep telling her, call me Magnus.
Right.
And then she said, oh, she's adjusting because she's now learning. So I took her home, and then my niece heard her call me Peggy, and my niece was like, no, wait, you are dating a trans man, me, I'm a cishet, and I'm calling him uncle, and then you
Right.
are rather calling
Right.
him
I love
Peggy.
children.
Like-
Because children will call you out right now, instantly.
So and since then she made a mental note that no, I should, because if you are dating someone 2 weeks, you start giving them pet names, baby, honey, forgetting that your baby has beards. You don't flip. So why is it so difficult for you to call a trans man that you think
Right.
that they have boobs, and then
Yeah.
you find it difficult to call them Manuel or Michael?
Right.
It's something that we just need to adjust, like. And then you see that you have two feminine guys that say they are couple, and then you have a community member asking who they chop, who is the man. Is it your
Right.
business?
Right.
So
Right.
it's
Right.
I think it's something that is affecting the community. So in Ghana here, what I've realized, it's the gay community, they hate to date, majority hate to date like femme, and then they say, hey, I'm not a lesbian. You need to look. So all
Right.
the Marys are hating James, so they are now macho Marys.
Right.
And then when
Right.
when you realize that macho Mary has dicked you, then they want to crucify themselves.
see.
I think it's something that we need to change. What's the roles that we
Yeah.
play in our bedroom shouldn't matter.
Yeah, it's very true, because
Yeah.
like nobody, and I want to say this, like, in terms of people that don't identify with any gender as well. Nobody owes you androgyny. Like, somebody can be like, somebody that was, I guess, at birth assigned male doesn't owe you not having a beard. They don't owe you sort of like any sort of like extra or outwardly femininity. If you see them and they still have their full beard and they're wearing makeup and that's what they want to do, then that's okay for them to do. It's not for you to challenge them and say that, oh no, like, you can't, what's going on, sort of a thing. We don't, nobody owes anybody any sort of like presentation, if that makes any sense.
And then the issue with transphobia, surprisingly, you tend to get comments from trans persons that are on hormones or that have, and then they will ask you, when are you transitioning? Have I told you I want to transition? Is it your transition? Like, you should leave me alone. When I'm ready, I will
Right.
just do it.
Right.
Don't be asking people, like, then it makes them feel like they don't fit in. Like,
Yes.
oh, when are you doing your ass? Like, especially when they see a trans man that is curvy, like, then you lack it. Like, you there, you don't fall. So sometimes I'm glad that I'm fat, and then I lead the trans group, so that if you want to body shame a trans man that has ass, you should look at the leader. Me, I have boobs. I have big tummy.
And also in this Ghana here, all the men have ass anyway. So
Yes,
like,
exactly.
look, Ghana boy booty is a real thing. So I don't understand why people come up with these things. There you go. There you go. Efia, do you have any sort of like knowledge, experience of transphobia or homophobia sort of like affecting? Because you're quite tall.
Yes.
Okay, you're quite tall, and I'm wondering whether there's ever sort of like been a time where people refer to you as sort of like manly. Because I know even in the media, people look at Serena Williams, they look at Sierra, and they're like, oh, they're buff, they're muscly, they're not beautiful. And with Sierra, like, people even challenge that she's a woman. I'm not even gonna lie, me, I was guilty. When I was like 17, I was like, nah. there has to be a dick somewhere. Surely. And I'm very ashamed of that. Like, I'm saying this now, also sort of like hold myself accountable and say that I am guilty of those thoughts as well. But have you ever been on the receiving end of any comments like that?
Yes, on a receiving end, I've had comments on like foot size. I am a size 42.
Okay.
So recently I was going to purchase a heel, and this lady told me she doesn't sell for men. She sells for only women.
Wow, her mother. But okay.
Yes, that was what she told me. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Wow.
So I just ignored it.
Right.
Yes, you know, with these online videos, they are really difficult. And from other people's experiences, especially social media, there's this lady, Ohima Martin. He faces, she faces a lot of backlash from the people.
Yeah.
So I think, like she rightly said, we just need to keep educating people so that they can unlearn what they've learned. As simple as that.
Okay. Sure. Famia, do you have anything to add?
I think people struggle with representatives, like they struggle with archetypes, right? So if people have something, they want to take something and say, this is the example of what this thing is. And they do it with everything, and unfortunately, that's where a lot of homophobia comes out. Because for people, what a gay man is a very stereotypical thing.
Yes.
And because they haven't bothered to do any work to educate themselves, as far as they are concerned, if they see you and you don't look like what they think a gay man is, then you have worried them. Like you've actually, you've ruined their day. So they have to come and ask you stupid questions because they are trying to wrap their head around why you don't look like what they learned a gay man is. Why you don't look like what they've learned a trans person is. They feel like psychologically you've messed them up. They're like, hey, but why?
Like you won't have deceived them.
Exactly. Explain to me why you look the way you look.
Like you're not gay enough.
You're not gay enough. You're not trans enough.
Right.
And it's bullshit. It's total bullshit, right?
Truly.
But it goes back to patriarchy, to men making all the decisions, to men being in charge, men getting to decide what beauty is, and the heteronormative stuff that comes out of that. And it's funny we're talking about Ciara, because I think that even in cis-het relationships, even in cis-het dealings, there's still a lot of latent homophobia and latent transphobia. So if a woman is not fine, you're going to call her a man. Because as far as you're concerned, that's the worst thing you can say to a woman, right? And that's transphobia, because what's wrong with somebody being assigned female at birth, presenting as a man? But if you're a woman, like Charlie, they call you a man, they've killed you, cry. Like, it's like, oh my God, you go home and cry. You put your pussy on the internet just to prove, you know, just to prove that you're not a man.
I have a vagina, look.
And I think it's whack, and I think it's unfair. But I also think it involves a lot of internal work. I was dating a guy recently who was very skinny, and it bothered the hell out of me. Like, I won't lie. I've never really thought of myself as masculine, but as I've gained more and more weight, I'm always self-conscious about the fact that, like, maybe people won't really know that I'm a girl. And for some reason in my head, if a guy and a girl are together, the guy should be bigger than the girl. That's how you know that it's a girl. Because the guy is the big one and the girl is the small one. And I was dating somebody who was very big. And then all of a sudden, here comes the skinny guy. And I'm like, Charlie, like, I'll break you. Like you're worrying me. Like, and every time we had sex, I had a real problem with it. I was just thinking, wait, but he's so small. And
the other small, or
the other one, he was okay. But because his body was so small, I couldn't even see the fact that the dick was big. I was just like, but you're so small. You know? And that is all my internalized homophobia, because I feel that I look masculine next to this very skinny church guy. And it bothers me. Despite all I know, despite all I've learned, there's still all that work I have to do on myself, you know? And I don't think he minded that I was big. I think he thought I was fine and sexy. But like, I just couldn't get it out of my head that I was going to break this boy. And so every time we were having sex, I was like, no, I can't do this position. I can't do this position. Like, you are vulnerable. I'll break you. No, I can't be here. All my weight is on you. Massa, I'll kill you.
And it's almost like you start kind of like adopting that the male persona, because obviously in our heads with our socialization we are used to that distinction that one person has to be masculine and one person has to be feminine. Now, okay, that reminds me of a story. Guys, don't judge me, okay? But I was dating this guy who was also very skinny, and you know, he was like my height, but to me that was short at the time. And I remember one time we were having an argument, and he just sort of, I was doing my hair, so he just went to go and sleep on my bed as I finished doing my hair. By the time I was ready to go to sleep, my man had like sprawled himself on the entirety of my bed, and I was so pissed off that in that moment I was like, bitch, get off my bed. And I carried him. I scooped my man and I moved him to one side of the bed, and I feel like our relationship couldn't go back from that. Like, that was it. At that point I was just like, yeah, you need like, you just sleep, I don't sleep again, go to your house, we can't. Because at that point I literally felt like, okay, yeah, I'm the man now. I wear the trousers now, I've got the dick, we can't, like, where do we go from here? And so it's a funny story, but it just goes to show how like that relationship was going to go nowhere anyway. But like, I essentially ended a relationship just based on me being scared that people will see me as manly, or the person that I'm dating will see me as manly, which is mad. And then also, I sometimes wonder how much it affects certain people who perhaps, you know, aren't trans, like they're very cishet, but there's just certain, you know, aspects of their body. So for example, because of a health condition, I grow facial hair. Like, you can't see it because I'm hella fine, you know, every day of the week, but I grow facial hair. And I remember that I had had symptoms for my medical condition for years, but the point at which I was like, nah, fuck this, was when I started growing facial hair. I was like, okay, yeah, I've had all these other symptoms, but it's okay, I'll just live with it. But I saw 2 whiskers on my chin, and I was like, nah, somebody come and give me all the hormones, surgery, do you want to take something out? Like, I'm ready. And it's mad, the lengths we're willing to go to just to fit inside a box. And, you know, talking about health conditions, that actually brings me to my next topic, which is disabilities. And how I feel like with disability, there isn't even like a basis of things to discuss because we totally ignore them. Yeah. Like, disabled people don't even seem to be worthy of our attention. Like, we look at them and we're like, ah, and move on. Like, that's literally what it is. And I just want to hear you guys' opinions in terms of like what you think of that and what we can do to include them more, one, in the conversations, and then also just sort of like, you know, yeah, include them, basically. Magnus, do you want to start?
So, I know 2 gay men that are disabled. One is blind, and then the other is dumb, and they happen to be in love, and then they were stigmatized because they are like, one, you are blind, and then upon all the things in the world, you didn't get anything to do that. And then there was one that also has walking challenges, and then he told me that anytime he chats someone on social media, he's fine, handsome, and then when it's up the time for them to meet, and then they see him coming, then like the person that they are going to meet doesn't show up at all. Right. But it's not like they don't show. I'm sure they just stand somewhere to see. People do that, like they will stand somewhere to see who they are going to meet. This person should fit in a certain
which is
standard.
Whack, because commit. Like, at the very least, commit to that first date. Do you get what I'm saying? But yeah, go on.
Yeah. So I think if you don't want it, you don't go for it. Some will even go to the extent of, okay, this time I'm in the mood, let's fuck. After that, I will delete your number. Right. But it's about time we bring everyone close, because you don't know who will stand up for who and what. But when you are talking of disability, albinos are part.
Yes.
And then the funny thing is, we all happen to be in the minority. Right. And then you find someone that is in minority, and then, you know, want to oppress
somebody else who's
someone
also-
else, and then you ask yourself, should I speak for you, or maybe we should all mind our business?
Right.
So I think it's about time we try to tolerate everyone, like, because you don't know what you have that I
Yeah.
hate so much, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to deal
Yeah.
with it. So you should also deal with mine, then we can have
Yeah.
a better place.
And the fact that we sort of like don't even think about people with albinism
Yeah.
is a thing where like we even within ignoring disabled people, we even choose the people that we ignore. Do you get what I'm saying? Like some people we don't even class as part of that. Afia, do you want to say something on that topic as well?
Yes, I have a friend. She's plus size and she's disabled. Sometimes she actually is in the UK.
Okay.
So she came down to Ghana some time back, and then we were at a restaurant. She had to order something, and this waitress was not coming. So I asked her, "Do you want me to get the waitress for you?" She said, "No, I'm fine." And I began to feel sorry for her state.
Right.
Like, why should I feel sorry? She's got herself.
Right.
So that's fine. Let her stand up for herself. So then she took her wheelchair and got the
Right.
waiter to come serve us.
Especially
So-
someone that stammers, and then they are trying to pronounce something. You want to pronounce it for them. They want
Allow
to say
them.
it. Allow.
Exactly.
If
You need
if
to allow. You need
Yeah.
to
it's up
have
to them
patience.
to tear their shot before they will say.
Exactly.
Just give them the room.
Yeah.
Yes,
Go on, Afia.
just let them stand up for themselves. But when there's an instance where you feel it is too much, then you come in, you be a voice, you represent them, and then say what you have to say, and that's it.
Okay. Famia?
I think it's interesting because I think that in our minds, I don't know why, we just think that disabled people have no agency.
Right.
We infantilize them, we pity them, we just sort of put ourselves in their shoes and they're like, oh, if this was my life, I would have killed myself. Oh, you
Right.
poor thing.
Right.
And it's interesting, when I was in university, I got very, very ill. And I had all this nerve damage in my legs. And for a while, I was in a wheelchair. And I didn't think of myself as being in a wheelchair. I was in too much pain to even really think about anything. But after I was better and I could walk again, I remember thinking, when I was in that wheelchair, I was too sick to be horny, but I could have been horny.
Right.
So why would I assume that someone who has cerebral palsy or someone who lives in a wheelchair or someone who's disabled doesn't have the same desires and wants and needs as everybody else?
Right.
But I realized that somehow I had just totally thought that they weren't sexual people. I think in my head I was just like, oh, you have bigger problems to deal with. Like you're not thinking about dick and pussy. Like you're struggling.
Konji catches everybody.
Yeah,
please.
Charlie.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I had to realize that disabled people have agency. Disabled people can speak for themselves. Disabled people are individuals.
Right.
And they have sexual orientation. They have, gender orientation. They have all these things that everybody else has.
Yeah.
But I don't think it comes naturally to us in terms of how we've been socialized to think like that. And I think in Ghana, it's even worse because we have a culture of hiding disabled
Yeah,
people.
Exactly.
So I remember I went to a friend's house when I was young and they had a son who was mute. And I saw him when he came out of the kitchen and asked me something. And I've been to those people's house for years. I had never seen this boy because they hid him in a room. And I've seen that many, many, many a time where we just sort of put disabled people somewhere and isolate them, and then we don't get to know anything about them. So, of course, it makes sense that we would then desexualize them. And it's fucked up and it needs to change.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So, just moving on to my last question now. I think with everything that we've spoken about and all the many issues that come with attraction and bodies, etc., how much do you think that our bodies should be part of our activism and our politics? Just because what I'm thinking is that, because there's some people who would say, oh, I'm not my body. Okay. But then on the other side, there's intersectionality. So, like, at the end of the day, I do have the body that I have, and people are seeing it, and people are judging me and oppressing me by it. But then again, like, bodies change. So, for example, I could be skinny tomorrow. Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to do it, but in essence, I could bleach and become lighter. Okay. And so, how much do you think, like, should we... And also coming back to the idea that inclusion hasn't really worked because what we end up doing is just picking certain body types and including them. So is it that, do you guys think that we should sort of just, because some people say just stop talking about bodies altogether, Okay, just stop talking about bodies. Just talk about the important stuff. Just talk about the ideas and leave bodies alone. Is that something that you guys think is possible or should be done? Famia, you can go first.
No, I think it's bullshit.
Right.
I think that it's like the way white people say I don't see race, at least if you're outside.
Right.
Well, because you're the default.
Right.
It's the same way somebody who's skinny, who has quote unquote a perfect body, will say I don't think about my body.
Right.
Well, it's because you're the default.
Right.
It's because you are normal and everybody else is outside of the norm, and we
Right.
that are outside of the norm constantly think about it because we are struggling to fit into the norm. And so I think that anybody who thinks that they exist outside their body is speaking from a position of privilege.
Right.
And in a perfect world, we would all exist outside our body because there'd be no norm. So we'd all just be accepted, would all just be chilling, and we'd be like, oh, I can focus on philosophy because I'm not thinking about
Right.
about my cellulite. But I think right now it's a very reductive idea and it's ridiculous, and in a way it's a cop-out because it's a way for people who fit the norm to dismiss
Right.
the fact that you are being excluded.
Yes.
And to pretend that they don't see
Right.
that you're excluded.
Right.
You know, I had a seamstress who, she was a designer, sorry. And then
Oh, that
one day I
differentiation is
took
very
her
important.
a picture of what I wanted and I asked her to do it.
Uh-huh.
And it turns out she found that very offensive because she believed that she was a designer and she should come up with something for me. So she did what I asked, but she did it very shoddily. I had to wear it to an engagement. So I went and got it the day before and I was like, yeah, how can I wear this? And then she told me, she was like, Famia, I'm not a seamstress, I'm a designer. Don't do that because someone will insult you and call you fat.
No,
And I was like,
you were
okay.
just waiting. You were just waiting to call me fat. Don't.
Evidently, you want to insult
Right.
me and call me fat.
Right.
You know, but for her, it was like, until I pissed her off, she could pretend she didn't see my body. Then when I pissed her off, all of a sudden, I was a fat bitch, right?
Right.
And I think that that's exactly what it is. You can't pretend you don't see bodies because the day you're bored with me, you will mention my body.
it. Yeah.
So anybody who pretends that it's not an issue is speaking from a position of privilege, and they should just shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Magnus, do you have anything to say on that?
I think she basically
said
said everything.
everything.
Yeah. It's a thing that needs to be talked about. Let's
Yeah.
not pretend that it's okay.
Yeah.
Because if you have 10 people standing, at least you have 1 or 2 out of the 10 who thinks the same way.
Right.
That like things like what we are saying here. So it's something that we need to really take look at it.
Okay. Ifya?
She has said it all.
She has said it.
Yes. Why should we ignore something when it is in existence? It doesn't make sense.
Right.
So I feel we should talk about it more, especially with the word fat. I don't think it's an insult.
Me neither.
No. I accept it, and it
unless
gives
I
me the freedom
Right.
to do whatever I want to do, to
Yeah.
feel confident about myself. I call myself the fat girl's president.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what else will you call
And I
me
love your
that?
Instagram, by the way, but you already know this.
Thank you. What else would you call me
Right.
that would seem labeled?
Right.
I already have my freedom. So
Okay, cool. Thank you, guys. So in this next segment, we're going to take a few questions. Is there somebody with a mic? Or you can come and get one from here. Okay, so a mic is going to come around. So if you have a question, put your hand up. And somebody's gonna come and bring you a mic to ask your question. Guys, make sure you ask questions because these people, they're busy people, so you won't see them anywhere else. Ask what you want to ask now. Okay, in the meantime, guys, is there anything else that you wanna say in terms of there's a question? Okay, sorry. Go on. We can't hear you. Can we sort out the mic? Okay. Mm-hmm.
About the inclusion of persons with disabilities
Uh-huh.
when they talk about sex and sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
I think 5 years ago, I was in a health center,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw clearly a mother with a young woman with Down syndrome.
Right.
come to the hospital. And we were having a meeting with one nurse who was also a reproductive health nurse. So
Right.
clearly she got her to attend to them. One, she was not professional because after attending to them, she came back and told us everything that has happened.
Right. So no confidentiality.
Yes,
Right.
a girl like this who will find her attractive,
Right.
impregnate her.
Right.
And I pointed out to her that she may not be attractive now, but as a nurse, you know she has reproductive health needs
Mm.
that you
Mm.
be viewing
Mm. Mm.
and I think, like you are saying, these are discussions that as society we don't even think
Yeah.
because to us they are disabled and so they are not
Right.
even human.
Right.
And so I'm glad we are having these discussions about inclusions, and I see you and MD here, and I don't know what really the partnership is,
Mm.
and how we can begin to. For me, I am very passionate about persons with disability, and especially
Mm.
their sexual reproductive health, because
Yes.
we totally
Yeah.
ignore them. I don't know anybody who can tell me that they have seen any of the reproductive health messages on TV and radio
Mm.
targeted at persons
Mm.
with intellectual
Yeah.
disabilities, especially.
Yeah.
We don't.
Yeah.
And yet, they are growing normally.
Mm.
Bodies are responding.
Mm.
I have a 7-year-old with Down syndrome,
Right.
and he sees you with a cleavage like this, and he has an erection
Right.
because persons with Down syndrome are hypersexual.
Mm.
And yet nobody is educating
Right.
society about these things. And they'll just tell you, say, oh yeah, but I was saying,
Mm.
was I saying. So
Mm.
I'm happy we are having these discussions, and we need to broaden the inclusion
Yeah.
discussion, not only about the trans and the gay community,
Mm.
but also about
Yeah.
persons with disabilities. Thank you.
Yeah. With that said, guys, do you think that bodies influence healthcare provision? Because I would say, for me, again, being a fat person and having the medical condition that I have, often the automatic conclusion is go and lose weight. Like that's it, bottom line, and then that's the end of it. So I really enjoyed that contribution, and yes, we need to have these conversations and talk about how these things affect the care that we're given. Are there any more questions? Is there a question? Okay, so it seems like, we've answered all of your questions and this has been super, super informative. Guys, I want to thank you guys for being here, Famia, Magnus, Ifya, for being on my panel and talking earnestly about these things. A comment? Okay, go on. We can't, can you please? Okay, don't worry, I'll bring you my mic. But you're gonna have to come forward a tiny bit because it might not reach all the way there. Go on.
Okay, I'll have to come forward. No, I can't. Hey,
Hello.
let me be here so I'm not in the light a lot. So what I wanted to say was, through the submissions that you all made, one thing ran through my head, and that's ableism. The thought that some people are the standard. That if you are